Hi, and welcome to Conductor, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify women's voices on the podium. Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide. I'm Kira Starr. And I'm McKenna, and we are Conductor. All right, good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Conductor. Today, I have two very special guests with me. First, we're going to welcome Dr. Mary Hannah Klontz, who is sitting in today for Kira Starr.
Hello, happy to be here.
For those who don't know, Mary Hannah was a guest on season 1. She's an amazing music educator and the sound editor for our podcast. But most importantly, she's our mom. So this is super special. And she's been such a support of the podcast. Kira's out of town. And so I was super thrilled that she could be with us today. So glad. And then secondly, we are thrilled to welcome Representative Anna Eskamani to the podcast today. Welcome, Anna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, and how adorable that your mom is here. That's so cute.
Representative Eskamani came to speak at the Florida State University Student ACDA chapter earlier this year, and unfortunately I couldn't be there, but all of my students were buzzing about the amazing conversation related to arts advocacy, and Kira and I knew that we wanted to invite her to be a guest on this season's lineup. So before we dive into the interview, let's just learn a little bit about her. Go ahead and kick it off, Mom.
Anna, a bold advocate for Florida families and the working class, was born and raised in Orlando. She's a state house representative with a background in nonprofit management and a PhD in public administration from the University of Central Florida. In 2018, she made history by flipping her legislative seat and becoming Florida's first Iranian-American elected official. Known for her advocacy on housing affordability, healthcare access, public education, equality, tax policy, and environmental issues, Anna secured a permanent tax break on children's diapers and adult incontinence products in 2023.
Prior to running for office, Anna served as the Senior Director of Public Affairs and Communication at Planned Parenthood of Southwest and Central Florida. A problem solver with a track record of kind sacrifice, endless hard work, and ironclad values, Anna is known across the state and nation as a leader who is unbothered, unbossed, and committed to the people of Florida. So again, welcome, Anna.
Thank you again for having me. I had such a great time with the students as well. Just incredible, candid conversations. And I'm just so grateful for all of our arts leaders and advocates. And I'm very humbled to be in your company as a high school theater kid myself and someone who deeply appreciates the arts. I always just feel so lucky to be in these spaces.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hey everyone, come check out the newest collaborations with Conductor and Call Time Clothing. Shop the newest designs from your favorite female conductor-owned clothing line, inspired by choir music education, made to order just for you. Get one of your own for $35 Canadian, or about $26 American, plus a flat rate shipping fee. Visit calltimeclothing.com today. Do you live near other conductors and want to save on shipping? Order multiple tees in one order so that you only pay one shipping fee. Visit calltimeclothing.com today or follow us on Instagram.
And we're back. Well, that leads us really well into our first question. Great segue. So we're just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your upbringing and then maybe a little bit about that theater background that you just mentioned.
Well, you know what they say, once a thespian, always a thespian. But to go back in time a little bit, and I feel like I have aged faster than the average human because I don't sleep as much. I've been awake longer than the average 35-year-old. I was born and raised, as mentioned in my bio, in Orlando, and my parents are both immigrants from Iran. They left Iran at different times in their lives, but for a similar purpose, to search for the American dream, to have the freedoms that were not something they had access to in a country like Iran. And they met each other working at the same donut shop in Orlando. So a true American love story. And I have a twin sister and a big brother. And education was very important to my family, like so many families, but especially immigrant families. the entire notion was we sacrificed so much for you to have another chance. And so I was a very, very good student. And I mean, a B was, cursed in my household. I mean, it was kind of high stress for a kid, but my life took a really difficult turn when I was about 10 years old because my mom was diagnosed with colon cancer. And I became one of her caregivers as a young girl. And despite how hard she fought, she didn't win that battle. She lost her life to cancer in 2004. So I was 13 years old and about to enter high school as a freshman. Really felt lost, was heartbroken. And I mean, honestly, still am. Like losing your mom at a young age, losing a loved one at a young age is very difficult. And top that with the fact that my period hadn't started yet. I mean, all these parts of your life where you want that mom to talk to, it just wasn't going to happen. And I found myself gravitating, towards outlets that are not always going to be the healthiest. And in my freshman year of high school, all the classes were brought to see our musical. It wasn't necessarily a choice that I made, but I got exposed to my first ever musical, which was Carousel. I just fell in love. And of course, You'll Never Walk Alone, which is an anthem for so many, just really hit me hard. And I just fell in love. And at the time, my first and only openly gay friend, he was in the show. He's a beautiful singer. He's actually a chorus teacher today. He's incredibly talented. We're still good friends. So he was like, well, you guys should get more involved. Like you should volunteer in the theater program. So he encouraged my sister and I to do that. And so he was a performer. We ended up being techie. Did not ever want to not leave tech. Like I love being a techie. Like a lot of the kids, like they do tech to get into the theater, right? Like as a way to get auditions and whatever. Nope. I was very happy in my blacks, like loved being backstage. I did props, costumes, set pieces with my twin sister. We were the backstage mistresses of stage left and stage right. Like we loved it. And that just gave me a safe place. It gave me a sense of identity. It gave me a friend network, helped me build leadership skills and confidence. And though I did not continue on the path of theater in my undergraduate years, I found ways to integrate arts and culture into my academics. And of course, when I decided to run for office the first time in 2018, knew that arts and culture funding would be a huge component of my campaign. And always has been, always will be. And so that brings me to, with y'all today. And of course, like I'm known for many different policy achievements and policy fights. But at the end of the day, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the access to high school theater and for the relationships and for the comfort and the confidence that it gave me as a young woman navigating a very difficult upbringing to where, I was able to lead with a sense of purpose following my exit of high school.
Thank you. We have seen that in the music side of things, that students find their place in really difficult times, and it keeps them coming to school. It gives them family and community. And so thank you for sharing how that was so important to you. So how did you decide on politics for your career?
Oh boy. I mean, I think it found me to some degree, but I will say, like, as an Iranian American, you're always surrounded by politics. I mean, I remember my mom. So my mom was one of 5 children. And 3 of her sisters are still in Iran. 3 of my aunties are still in Iran. I've only met them in person 3 times, and the last time I saw them was nearly 20 years ago. And my uncle, the youngest of the 5, lives here in the States as well. But my mom would talk to us about how she wanted to visit her sisters, but couldn't because of politics. So I grew up with this understanding that politics can be really bad, and it can be weaponized to separate families, to cause harm, to make your life more difficult. And then when my mom passed away, one of my aunt who married into the family, she's American, and so she brought to our attention different programs. She was like, okay, now that we've experienced this loss, have you considered applying for SSI? I mean, these were conversations she had with my dad, going from already a financially difficult environment where my parents worked multiple jobs and so forth, now going to single income with 3 kids. Now, granted, my brother had turned 18, so he was starting at Valencia College and was working at a restaurant part-time. But my dad had 2 girls to still raise and no clear avenue resource to do it. And so he applied to SSI and we ended up getting benefits. My sister and I think it was like $350 a month up until we turned 18. Not a lot of money in the bigger scheme of things, but incredibly helpful to my dad for now being a single income household.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Hagan, composer and founder of Compose Like a Girl, a choral series dedicated to empowering composers who identify as women through mentorship, publication, and promotion. With over 30 pieces in the series, with many different voicings, we're showcasing fresh, compelling music like Womankind by Emily Drum, The Infinity of Space by Ritika Bhattacharjee, and When I Become an Old Woman by Sherry Blevins. Explore the catalog at jocelynhagan.com/composelikeagirl and graphitepublishing.com.
And we're back.
And of course, I had counselors that encouraged me to apply for Bright Futures, and I was able to get 100% cover for it, got into UCF. So you slowly start realizing that politics can also be a positive in your life, right? The government can play a positive role in your life. Right? Who's making those decisions? Like, you start asking these questions. Who is in charge of protecting these programs or enhancing these programs? And why did my family struggle with medical debt? So, like, you just start kind of wondering, right? And so I credit so much of my political awakening to my AP government teacher, Mr. Norris, who continues to be an incredible cheerleader in my life. And I just talked to him the other day, and he's now a dad of 2 and all this kind of stuff. His wife actually is a theater director at Stetson University. So,
amazing.
Great connections. He helped me understand the importance of young people in particular to be civically minded and civically engaged. And he was a theater kid himself. So he brought to life FDR. He brought to life the civil rights movement. He brought to life the functions of government. We actually had our own government system within the classroom. And all of that gave me a passion for advocacy. That when I got to UCF as an undergrad, I originally was an environmental science major, but I picked up a minor in political science. And eventually that political science minor became a major. And I picked up a second major in women gender studies, which I do credit to my mom, because I'm a firm believer that death may end a life and not a relationship. And in an effort to get to know my story more, I started reading literature about Iranian women written by Iranian women. And it not only helped me understand her journey more, but of course, it opened up a interest in women's rights and women's equality, which became foundational to me as an advocate. And to this day, really my origin story of eventually running for office is reproductive rights and working on Planned Parenthood and being an advocate for bodily autonomy in all ways. And so, that's kind of the avenue in. And I worked at Planned Parenthood for about 7 years before I ran for office, got my master's, my dual master's at that time, and then, of course, finished my PhD last year in public administration.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah. It took me a long time, but at least I finally finished it.
Well, I can tell you it's such a joy to know that you are down the street in Tallahassee during the legislative season. That brings me hope. And so we have a couple questions for you. You mentioned the power of the arts in your life and that transformative experience and just guiding you to this place of purpose. So you've talked a little bit about why it's important to have the arts and advocate for the arts. But right now is a really difficult time. The NEA just slashed a bunch of funding. I'm seeing all over the country organizations that are near and dear to my heart that are really going through pretty significant losses, like 14% and more of their annual budget. And so you have this really amazing lens. And we'd like to ask you, what is the most effective course of action right now for citizens who are concerned about the support for the arts?
It's such a great question. And what we're experiencing right now is definitely unprecedented, but the advocacy tools are consistent. And I speak from experience because in Florida, and especially younger advocates might not remember this, but after the 08-09 recession, Florida dramatically defunded all of the states and arts grants programs, and they were never restored to 100% until about 10 years later, where we organized town halls. We made it a political election year topic where we asked candidates, what is your position in funding arts and culture? We made the issue very prevalent in all environments, to the point where when we got to Tallahassee in 2019, we were actually able to increase that funding back to 100%. Now, obviously, that has been difficult to maintain, and Governor Ron DeSantis is infamous for vetoing all of the arts and culture funding for Florida nonprofits last session. And we are building support in a bipartisan manner to restore that funding this year.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
The Conductor Choral Series, powered by Music Spoke, is an intentional platform that highlights the voices of women and their allies in the choral music world. This series is designed to elevate and celebrate the contributions of women throughout history, as well as those currently shaping the music scene. Its name, Conductor, intertwines the role of a conductor with the concept of empowerment and the recognition of women in music, a field where their contributions have often been overlooked or underrepresented.
The series serves as a celebration of diverse women's voices, composers, conductors, singers, and advocates, by providing access to choral works that reflect their unique perspectives, creativity, and experiences. Through this collection, Music Spoke gives both emerging and established composers the opportunity to share their voices with the choral community, providing a sense of inclusivity, visibility, and accessibility to repertoire. Check out the Conduct Her Choral Series today for your next concert.
And we're back.
The reality is that what we're seeing out of the federal government is shocking and candidly appalling in a lot of ways, because it's not just the defunding, it's the sensationalism of issues, it's the misinformation, it's the politicalization of even institutions like the Holocaust and Educational Center, putting some very questionable, based on qualifications, individuals on those boards. And it often seems like favoritism and cronyism versus people who are actually experts in these fields and in these spaces and all these topics. So what do we do about it? I mean, I think it's important to not just be outraged on the internet, though, of course, I encourage everyone to let it out and, share with your audiences. Make sure people know, because you'd be surprised how many folks are not political, even in this environment. I often take it for granted that I'm surrounded by political informed individuals, right? Like my twin sister works in advocacy. My big brother and his wife, they work in the private sector, but they're very informed individuals. They're always watching the news and so forth. My social media algorithms are mostly political in nature as well, but that's not the case for every person. And so don't be afraid to share an article, to share a topic on your socials, because you just don't know how engaged your friends and family network are, and you can help shake that up. But you always want to have an ask. You want to have an advocacy ask. That's organizing 101 is a very specific ask. So I would say contact your member of Congress, contact your 2 U.S. senators, email them, call them. Even if you think they're not going to agree with you, they need to feel the pressure. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from legislative offices on the conservative side on, for example, DOGE, where you have really good programs get sporadically defunded, and then the funding gets restored because people make noise about it. And so this administration is so sporadic and irrational, and they're not making decisions based on data. They're just kind of doing it how they feel on a Tuesday, it seems. So be aggressive in highlighting why this is damaging, and speak to the ROI at a local level. Not every person is going to understand. For me, arts and culture, it's a values-based commitment. Like, I just see the power in storytelling, the connectivity that it has, including in my life. But that doesn't always resonate with every person. So also know your audience. Maybe it's the ROI. Maybe it's the impact on small businesses in the area. Maybe it is the youth empowerment, or maybe you have a program for people with disabilities that's impacted, or for our seniors, veterans of PTSD. I mean, there's so many intersections between art and health that might also be something to uplift. So know who your audience is, and put that pressure, and then leverage the different types of earned media. Host a press conference on it, a round table, write an op-ed. Like, think of different ways that you can engage with the public to activate more people to take that action with you.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hey, Kira. Hey, McKenna. You know what choral directors are always looking for? What? Well, as choral directors, we are always looking for new pieces to program for our upcoming concerts, and Pavon Publishing is proud to have some outstanding women composers and conductors in its catalog.
Wow, what are some of the new releases?
Well, let me tell you. Canto e Liberta by Diana Saez and Suzette Ortiz for treble voices, piano, and percussion. It was premiered under the direction of Dr. Iris Levine from Conductor Season 1 and is in her Pavon Treble Choral series.
Ukrainian composer Irina Alexichuk's Holy Lord of Hosts is stunning and was premiered in the US by Grant Gershon and the LA Master Chorale. Grant has launched his new series with Pavon in support of this remarkable composer.
Zenaida Robles, one of the most sought-after female writers, will have her latest composition, The Summit is Nigh, premiered at the ACDA National Convention in Dallas this March. Again, a Conductor Season 2 interviewee.
Janaea Robison, conductor of the Lutheran National Choir, has 2 new offerings: an SATB voicing of her successful setting of I Wonder as I Wander, and new editions of Bach's cantata BWV 118, with alternative lyrics that enables performances from Advent and Christmas to Palm Sunday and Easter. Check out Pavon Publishing today at pavonpublishing.com.
And we're back.
Thank you. You've given us so much to think about with that answer. We really appreciate that. You said that you had some feminist research, some studies that you had done. And so connecting that to your career, what has it been like to be the first Iranian woman elected to any public office in Florida?
Oh my gosh, that's a really great question. And honestly, now, 7 years into my service, I'm sad to say that I'm still the only, because I was really hoping that, in that time frame, we would see more progress, and not just with myself as an Iranian American, but other individuals of Asian descent, other individuals of diverse backgrounds would be in a place of service. And it just speaks to how we have a lot more work to do in empowering community members who may not typically see themselves as being politically engaged or serving and running for office, to definitely take that leap of courage and do so. To me personally, it is a very important responsibility to be a role model for Orlando, for Central Florida, for the state, but also for my heritage. And a lot of folks, unfortunately, their only exposure to Iran in particular is in the media, and it's negative. It's often the concerns of the Islamic Republic. It's concerns about war. It's concerns about, of course, human rights atrocities in Iran that many, especially women, are fighting back against. So the context is never necessarily in a positive light. So I really try to be that liaison. I know that for many of my colleagues, legislature, I might be the only Iranian American they know. And so it's my job to be a role model for my community, and to also introduce folks to not just my culture, but also my values. From a cultural perspective, I would say that the Persian food is some of the best food. We celebrate incredible holidays. I actually host an annual celebration for Nowruz, which is known as the Persian New Year, in Orlando. I hosted one in Tallahassee before with inviting other lawmakers. But from a values-based perspective, I would say that Iranian Americans, Persians, folks often interchange the two, are some of the most selfless and hardest working people you will meet. And a part of our culture is to also not take no for an answer. We're very stubborn, but it's an incredible culture that I try to model my daily actions. It's kindness. In fact, this necklace that I'm wearing, it's called a fafahar. And it actually will sound, anyone who is a practicing Buddhist or someone who understands the Buddhist tradition, there are similarities, which is not a surprise because I think at the end of the day, like all of us are so intertwined in this big blue dot in the universe called planet Earth. But the notion in this necklace, there's 3 parts in his wings, and it means good deeds, good thoughts, and good words. And so that philosophy is something that I live by. And if you ever see our political logo, it actually has a V and 3 stripes. And the V is in honor of my mom, because my middle name is her maiden name, that's Fishguy. So that V is there to represent her holding me up, if you will. And then the 3 lines are good deeds, good thoughts, and good words. So I tried to model that. I tried to speak to that. I tried to teach that to my peers. And it's just something I definitely don't take for granted. And I think as a woman, there's so much inspiration that I take from women around me, for women around the world, and in particular, Iranian women who, as I mentioned earlier, are fighting for just their basic dignity and equality every single day in Iran, and sometimes losing their life because they are protesting for those freedoms. And so I do not take that for granted, and I try to make all women proud, but especially the next generation. I try to do what I can to create that path forward.
That was beautiful. And so much in there that I know we'll just keep going back to listen to and play back again and again to process. I loved explaining a little bit about that political logo and the good deeds, good thoughts, and good words. I feel like that's a mantra we all really need to carry with us, especially right now. And I have the privilege at Florida State of working with an ensemble of between 90 and 100 treble voices. So there's some gender fluidity in there, but for the most part, women identifying students. A lot of them come from households of families who immigrated and they were born in the States or are women of color. And I'm just wondering, you have this really unique lens, but in general, what words of wisdom might you have for young women beginning their career, and maybe specifically either women of color or women who are growing up in a household that have immigrant parents? What thoughts might you have for that?
I love this question. My first reaction is that you are deserving and valued, and you deserve to feel valued. That is something that my therapist once told me, and I like to share that wisdom with others because I do feel like, especially when you're navigating spaces that were not built by people that look like you, and it probably wasn't built for you, right? And I feel that every day when I walk into the house floor. I'm activated in an institution that never, ever, ever assumed that someone like me would be there. And to this day, I get really ugly emails and messages and comments about not necessarily my policy chops or policy positions, but just based on body image. There was this guy on Facebook that would continuously post a photo of Gonzo the Muppet, making fun of the size of my nose. And I have to tell you, I think Gonzo is adorable, but and one of the best Muppets, but definitely trying to get at me at that level, right? And make comments about my weight. Oh, she's gained weight. Just those types of comments all the time, and completely sexist, because it's deeply offensive, but designed to get at you, right? And to distract you and to depress you and to push you away from this work, away from being public. And so it's really important for my fellow young leaders and women or femme presenting folks, or for anyone, right, who is finding themselves in a situation or environment where they don't feel seen, to know that you are in the right place at the right time. You are meant to be there. You are qualified. You are necessary. And just give it all you got. No one can take away your work ethic. No one can question you when it is so personal and values driven. Just ground yourself in your own confidence. I think the biggest weakness for any person is ego. And I have really practiced hard, especially in the last 7 years, to let go of ego, to not take things too personally, to also have a mesh. So when someone does say something to you, don't let it actually touch you. Have
Right.
this like imaginary mesh so you can process, right? You're seeing it, you're not feeling it, and just give yourself the chance to process, and it'll help you make more tactful decisions of how you want to respond versus also being impulsive. When you've done this work as long as I have, like I've been involved in politics now for over a decade because I really started more full time in 2008 with President Obama's first campaign. So I've now been doing this work. I mean, it'll almost be 2 decades in 2028. And so not a lot really like gets me angry. Like I get sad more than angry. But the reason why is because I'm trying to stay focused on how do I take care of my people? How do I take care of our community? And I can't function if I'm just so full of rage that, I can't get words out, right? So I try really hard to just take every issue with grit and grace to figure it out and to be solution and oriented versus anything else. And I think if you take ego out of the equation, it'll make it easier for you to stay focused, even when someone has like said something that is off or offensive. Like it just gives you the capacity to process that more intentionally and to respond in a way that motivates others to join you versus respond in a way that might even further isolate you, right? And put you even in a more delicate situation.
Oh, that was incredible. I love the mesh idea. One time I was speaking with therapists and they were like, it needs to be like a boomerang. Somebody tries to hit you, but know that it can boomerang right back to them if you don't catch it. So great advice there.
I also think like humor is a great coping mechanism. So I mean, I try so hard. I mean, it's not always possible, obviously, especially in today's world, but whenever someone is trolling me, because it's just so absurd. Some of the emails that I get, I'm just like, what is this? There's typos everywhere. And so I'll like post it on my social media and just be like, LOL, what is this person even talking about? You get to just sit in the comfort that like others agree with you and others are affirming you and find those little moments of joy. A little bird just made a nest in my mailbox and I'm just like obsessed with it. And it's so silly and simple, but I think you do need those little outlets in this chaotic world to like maintain a little bit of self-care however you can as well.
Yes, beautiful. Well, I know we're approaching the end of our allotted time, but is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know that we have not asked?
Oh, if you don't know who your state representative is, like, please find out. You can just go online, flhouse.gov, click on representative, punch in your address. Everyone obviously has a lot of attention on Congress right now, which is very important, as we talked about with arts funding at the federal level and so forth. But remember that local officials impact your life every single day. And you got at least a state representative and a state senator who are supposed to represent you. You're going to have a county commissioner or a school board member. So don't overlook the value and importance of local government.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, Anna, it has just been a joy to get to spend a little bit of time with you. Thank you for all that you are doing, not only for the state of Florida, but for women, for politics in general, for the good of the world. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us on the Conductor podcast.
Well, thank you, doctors, for having me. Pleasure to be in your presence. And thank you for being an inspiration for our students and supporting our students through these unprecedented times and preserving the importance of higher education, which is incredibly important to me in so many ways. So thank you for all you do.
Well, stay tuned, Conductor. This has been a great episode. And check us out on social media at www.conductor.com. Thank you for listening. This has been Conductor.
This episode was engineered and mixed by Mary Hannah Klontz with intro and outro music by Chloe Garut and ad music by Kate Crellin.
Discover more resources at conductor.com.